When I saw a video game being reported as the hardest, cruelest, most punishing game of all time, I thought to myself, well, hot dang, that sounds like the game for me. And this is coming from someone who sucks at video games. Yeah, I'll admit it. I've said I play video games, I love video games, I've never claimed to be good at video games. My total lack of hand-eye coordination means that every single person who has the misfortune of coming across me in the middle of a first-person shooter will leave with extreme motion sickness and/or anxiety due to my shaky and erratic gameplay. Yet, I found the challenge of Fear and Hunger enticing. I loved the look of the game, the art style, the atmosphere, and I was ready. And I had the advantage that many first-time players did not have upon this game's release. And that advantage was Frapollo. Armed with the knowledge from various failed playthroughs and the eventual wisdom granted by Senpai, as I delved deeper into the dungeon, I came to a realization. This isn't the hardest, cruelest, most punishing game you'll ever play. It's a game that plays you. Fear and Hunger begins with a choice of 4 characters. These are canonically named Kahara, the mercenary, Das, the knight, Enki, the dark priest, and Ragnarvolda, the outlander. Evidently in the playthrough I'm showing you right now, I chose Das, because she's the best girl. She's the only girl, but she's still best girl. Each character has their own reason for going into the dungeon, which intertwines with each other. They're all after this guy called Lagarde, for their own different reasons, which I won't get into so that you have a chance to explore those things for yourself. During the introductory scene, you can make choices that will affect the abilities you can use in the game, or gain some starter items. For example, with this playthrough with Das, I chose to get the dash skill because that means it increases my character's movement speed, which can be really handy when running away from enemies. And you will be running away from enemies quite a bit. I also chose to get the ability Fast Stance, which means every single turn in combat I get an extra turn, which can save you if you're on very minimum HP and very little time. Depending on which character you can pick up different skills specifically for that character, or later on throughout the game you can learn other skills, whether that's specific to your character or not. That is something that we will get to when we get to it. You can also pick up items, as I previously mentioned, and I got an iron spear and arm guards. Limb loss is a thing in this game, and therefore it's advantageous to find ways for you to not lose those limbs. You can lose 1 or 2, for example, 1 leg isn't going to do much harm, but both, you're crawling for the rest of the run. For this section of the video, I'm going to be using a gameplay commentary style so I can explain aspects of the game as we encounter them in my run. And just a disclaimer, I will be blurring certain parts of this video because I'm unsure what I can and can't show on YouTube, and I don't have the censor mod. In the basement of the dungeon, you can in fact be randomly sucked into a flip side of the basement of the dungeon. This location is unrevisitable, meaning that once you exit, you cannot enter it again. There's not much here except a few items and also, a jump scare. You can engage with this enemy if you spend too long in this area. It's not really a hard fight. Honestly, I would just get in and get out. There's not much there for you unless you want to collect souls. So let's talk about souls. In the game, each character has a soul. You can collect souls using soul stones, which later can be used at a hexen table to level up certain abilities, gain abilities that you did not have after the intro scene. After killing an enemy, you can use a soul stone to absorb a lesser soul and spend it at the hexen table. Okay, so we just need to kill some enemies, you say? You'll learn soon that fighting in this game isn't always necessarily the best choice. As we get into our first battle, battles take turns, and as I've used my fast stance, I get 2 turns. But this enemy has multiple limbs and can use those limbs each turn. Each limb has a turn. As well as this, enemies can inflict certain status effects on you that will make your run harder, and we haven't even talked about statuses yet. Of course you have your HP, but you also have your mind bar as well. That's the fear part of the game. You also have your hunger effect. If you go under a certain amount of hunger, you will stack up on hunger, fear and hunger. And I've also, in this fight, just gotten a parasite, which will eat up my hunger at more speed than it already would have. Items are also scarce in this game, which is why you see me checking every single crate and box for them. You need to replenish your mind using booze or substances. You need to replenish your hunger with food, and HP with HP items. They aren't a commonality within this game, making you having to track 3 different statuses with very limited resources. If you go too low on your HP, you're dead. If you let your hunger meter get too high, it will weaken your character. If you let your mind go too low and you become fearful, it will reduce your damage output and increase your damage intake. And that's including any phobia you might have, because this game has phobias. Phobias are a mechanic that are randomized during the beginning of the game, which will affect how your character does in combat. For example, if your character has the generated fear of zoophobia, the fear of animals and beasts, they will do a lot less damage against those character types. And if you have panophobia, the fear of everything, you will start the game putting out less damage and taking more damage from every single enemy. Panophobia can be a randomly generated phobia at the start of a game or induced by having the mind stat to reach 0. This is where we introduce the idea of the game being punishing. We have 3 different stats that we need to keep track of: hunger, fear, and mind. If our mind gets too low, then we'll get panophobia, which will reduce our damage output for everything, and you'll have an additional fear on top of that anyway for specific types of enemies. Leading on from that bed in the room right there, that is the only guaranteed safe save at this stage of the game. You can only use it once, however. Theoretically, you could sleep in any bed in the game and save safely, but you must pass a coin flip. In the previously mentioned bed, you can save once safely without having to use a coin flip, but if you wanted to use it again, you'd have to pass a coin flip. And if you fail it, bad things happen. Coin flips are an occurrence throughout the game when it comes to saving, opening chests, and, avoiding instant death. There are many ways in which a coin flip could cause instant death, whether it be enemy attacks, or I'll just play this one that I got in the run. You what? And if it's a coin flip during an enemy attack, it might not outright kill you, but it might take off one of your limbs. If you recall at the very beginning of this video, I did mention limb loss, and it is survivable. If you lose an arm, then you won't be able to wield 2-handed weapons. If you lose 2 arms, you can't wield weapons, but you still could use magic. If you lose 1 leg, then it's no big deal, but if you lose 2 legs, then you're dragging yourself down into the dungeons. There is also an enemy that I will not spoil for you that can cause blindness, which means you're playing the game on the black screen of death. You cannot play the game. It is unplayable at that point. And this is all in the first half of the game. Let's summarise. you've got 3 different statuses you need to keep up to date with, and additional status effects which can affect those primary statuses. You've got phobias, which are randomly assigned to you, that can affect your damage output and your damage intake. Resources are scarce, and you can get party members which will give you additional damage output and defense, but you also have to consider how much of the resources they will take. Saves and certain loot can be behind a coin toss, as well as limb loss that cannot be fixed unless you do something that I won't mention in this video. The odds are stacked against you. Why would you even play this game? This game is clearly the hardest, cruelest, most punishing game of all time. Until you learn how to play the game. Or, more fittingly, how the game plays you. Veteran players of Fear and Hunger, when it first came about, had to learn the hard way that you must search absolutely everything, every secret, try every single action you can do, because it will make the game so much easier. You have to adapt to the game, not expect the game to adapt to you. That not every single enemy has to be fought. That during combat there is a literal talk option which broadens your horizons for many different enemies. And that there can be strategy to certain enemies. For example, it's advantageous to go for limbs rather than straight for the head in many fights, because you'll often miss the head if the limbs are not eliminated. The very first enemy you'll likely meet, the Meniba, teaches you this lesson. It's not a game that holds your hand, and while I, at the time of playing the game, was blessed with guides, there were still things that I had to figure out on my own. It isn't a hard game when you learn that you have to manage resources. Resource management is a part of the game, and if you can do that effectively, the game becomes much easier. It isn't a cruel game when you realise that there are strategy to certain battles, and getting rid of limbs is more optimal than going straight for the head. It isn't a punishing game when you learn that you have to consider whether it would be more advantageous or not to take the coin flip risk at that point in time. The lack of the direction for the player adds to the creepy ambience of the story, and I absolutely love it. You feel just as lost as these characters do when they've been dropped into these dungeons, and it's well worth exploring. I would definitely suggest trying to play it blind like I did at the beginning to get a feel for it. It gives the player so much more of a satisfaction when unlocking secrets and tricks themselves. If you aren't sensitive to any of the listed trigger warnings that are presented at the beginning of the game, I would definitely say give this game a try. It deserves all the support in the world. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.